If you are in the world today, you should wear your face masks everywhere you go, especially when you're going to places with lots of people gathering. Hello and welcome to SW Africa News. This is Global COVID Watch. My name is Peggy Agbe. Today we will be looking at various countries' storage facilities. I have with me Dr. Emeka Fred Hilary Carnaby. He is the medical officer and lead strategist of Health Innovate Plus. You're welcome, doctor.
Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah, so please sit back while we bring you this intro. Don't go anywhere.
Vaccine is a biological substance designed to protect humans from bacteria and viruses caused by unwanted organisms, which poses danger and weakens human immune system. The concept behind vaccine is to help provide an antibody memory response without the presence of an actual illness. A vaccine must contain at least one antigen from the bacteria or virus in order to get results. Coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19, has and is still affecting the globe. Cases are soaring in countries in the American continent like United States, Brazil, and countries in Asia like India, but in Africa, where infections are relatively lower than predicted. That is not to say that Africans should fold their arms till it gets critical. What is the way forward, particularly for Nigeria? So far, more than 181 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccines have been administered across 78 countries, according to data collected by Bloomberg. Following the rejection of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine from South Africa, the country has expressed readiness to share same with needy African countries. On Global COVID Watch today, we'll be looking at how effective that may be, or if other African countries have the same variant of the virus that AstraZeneca can take care of, and other global updates on COVID-19.
Information gives you knowledge. Knowledge gives you power. Power helps you to stay alive. At SW African News, we give you that power to stay alive. SW African News. Reliable, authentic, authoritative.
Welcome back. So, Doctor, about global updates on vaccines availability and administration, do you think the world's government is doing well for its citizens so far?
Thank you, Peggy. I honestly think that depending on each country's peculiarities and their needs, I think some governments are trying. I think they're making attempts to meet the needs of their people. But I do fear that because it's a global pandemic, there tends to be some replication of methodology in different countries. What I mean by that is a system that works, for example, in America, that's the United States, could be, for lack of a better word, copied in a developing country like, let's say, Ghana or Nigeria, and that could have some catastrophic effects if that is not adapted to a particular place. So generally, I would say that countries are trying. Initially, it was not so great because there was a lot of panic. But in recent times, I think they're trying to adapt their strategies, their protocols, though universal, but they're trying to adapt it to their citizens.
Okay. So coming back home to Nigeria, I know we don't have the vaccines here yet. Okay, but what do you think government is doing here, to keep us safe? Sensitization and all of that. What do you think government should do?
I think already it will be very difficult for anybody not to know what's going on and know what the preventative protocols are and what is supposed to be done. So for that, the government has done really well in letting people know. It's on the radio, it's on billboards. people are talking about it. In my church, for example, it's reiterated every time we gather. So it's a thing that people are aware of. So when it comes to sensitization, education of people, to some extent, I think the basic person, the ordinary Nigerian, is aware of the preventative protocols for COVID-19.
Okay, so let's come back to Africa now. South Africa actually stopped the AstraZeneca vaccines application, okay, because it didn't fit the variants. And they're willing to give to other needy African countries. Now, do they need more research to know if other African countries actually need the vaccines, if it fits their variants, or do you think they should just give them out?
I think that this is something that the world has a high demand for, and then sitting on vaccines will not be in any way beneficial for anybody.
Okay.
We also know the cost it will take to get these vaccines, and then secondly to store them, and not so much is being done as to how sensitive they are to temperature, they are to even being moved, etc. Things are just coming up about the temperatures and how to keep them. So it will be best, because of the high demand, to let them go if they don't fit into your country's profile.
So while these vaccines are being kept, waiting to see countries whose variants fits it, don't you think it might expire by the time all of the researches are done? I'm lost here.
I seriously doubt that countries are waiting to make that assessment.
Okay.
There's been a rollout in several countries already.
Okay.
Almost 200 million of vaccines that really just been rolled out. So some people actually have got their second dose, and it's still not enough. So we're churning out. So I think that one of the problems we might not have now is expiries of these vaccines, because there's a really high demand for them. So the sooner the countries that need them have them, the better it will be. Nigeria is a country that right now, the vaccines that are available, I'm very sure would prefer some immunity for the citizens, whilst we expect to hope not. But we have a variant that it's that the vaccine doesn't cover for. Yes.
Oh, okay. So we'll be right back after this short break. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Welcome back. So let's come back home to Nigeria about government, trying to get vaccines for its citizens. Do you think the government of Nigeria is doing much? Because we know that vaccines are supposed to be purchased, and there are a lot of chain protocols to follow, before that happens. So what do you think? Do you think Nigerian government is going with speed or going fast enough, to get vaccines for its citizens?
Well, to be very honest, if we look at, so there's one thing. Yes, vaccines are coming, but how ready are we to accept the vaccines? Peggy,
that's something.
Are you ready?
Yeah, that's something we really need to talk about, because
exactly.
I wouldn't want to.
Are you ready?
I think I would take the vaccine.
You do?
Yeah, I think I'll take it. So but then sensitization,
exactly,
and all of that.
Because we're still struggling. The world over is still struggling to get people to even accept vaccines like the polio vaccine. You won't believe it.
There are people who still...
There's still people that still believe that the polio vaccine is to make them sterile and to make some effect and all of that. Talk more of the COVID vaccine that's been met with so much controversy.
And there are a lot of speculations that it deforms your face and all of that. A
lot of speculation, which is not surprising. This world over has gone on time over with vaccines. When there's something new coming, people are a little bit, apprehensive. So that's expected. Okay. But with COVID particularly, especially when the larger proportion of the population do not still see it as an imminent threat. You know, the acceptance of such a vaccine is still to be debated. Yes, the urban, you know, the general urban population might be willing. I've had medical professionals say that they will not take the vaccine.
Really?
I'm serious.
Why? What's their reason?
Their reason is because of how quickly it's been put out. You know, because we have been used to vaccines taking longer.
Oh, okay.
You know, things like polio, the smallpox vaccine, yellow fever, they've taken a long time.
This one needed to be fast because it was killing people.
Which is expected, but it's just like you have a system, and this is not just in Africa, all over the world. You have a system that ensures why the delay. The delay is not in the technology. The delay is in the safety.
Okay.
You want to see what this vaccine will do, you know, if tested on a small group of people before it's rolled out on a scale. Unfortunately, like you're saying, because of the times we're in, whereby the world is a global village. This is the, you know, this is a COVID watch that's global.
Yeah.
And it's a global village, and people are moving around all the time, everywhere. So I think the need was more in a time like this compared to maybe, you know, somewhere in the 20th century or even in the 19th century. So yes, it's in place to roll this out quickly, but at the same time, we still need to be very vigilant. There still needs to be a lot of surveillance. So we don't just get the vaccine and then rest on our oars.
Yeah.
We still need to know what is happening to the people who have received this, and that needs to be very something we need to take really critically everywhere in the world, so that if we see any changes that are untoward, we can either find a solution to address that or quickly start making something else that could address the COVID situation without harming the people. I think that's so the safety profile of a vaccine is very, very critical.
Okay, in the intro, we actually heard that over 181 million people have been vaccinated in over 76 countries. Do you think that's good enough?
I think, again, like you mentioned, it all has to do with the vaccine, you know, its availability, it being effective. That's also important, and the safety. I still think that where countries that are suffering a lot of mortality and then morbidity from COVID-19 should be prioritized in getting the vaccine. America's doing so well in trying to, like I mentioned earlier, some people have actually started having the second dose, which is great. Again, but we still need to roll out faster. We're still, you know, this rollout is also in phases. So even when it comes to Nigeria, Peggy, you will be first.
I know that. There is a role in how it's supposed to go.
So we're going to have this in phases, and people are going to get.
Okay, so France actually asked Europe and the US to give 5%, you know, of vaccines donations to other countries, you know, that cannot afford, you know. Do you think that is visible? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think, remember, it's just like most of the public health strategies, because I mentioned that the world has really become a global village.
Of course.
You can't hide in Brazil and say that, oh, I'm safe.
Yeah.
Because somebody from wherever is going to come to you.
Of course.
So I'll call it sacrificial, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's a whole, we're all in the same mess together. So that is very needed, because they know that if we don't get that immunity, we're still going to move. And then the virus has that potential to change its characteristic. And if it does, that's why we're having various variants. And then the vaccines that we have might probably not be effective against it. So we have to, that's why I said the vigilance is very important. The rollout, though it's phased, remember, money is involved, and where there's money, it all demand and supply, and then cost and all of that. So priority needs to come in. Countries need to know who, and that's why the phased rollout. It's not just to everybody. Who is most at risk of COVID-19? Who is most at risk of COVID-19 morbidity and mortality? And then these people should be prioritized to have the vaccine. So I do think for us right now, with the mortality that's not even up to 2,000, we're just getting to that level where, like I said, and I've said this on several platforms, if we count other diseases the way we count COVID, we would actually be more frightened by other diseases, especially in Africa.
Okay, you remember when AIDS came and everybody was like, oh, we're all going to die and everything.
Going to die, so
and then COVID is here again. everybody's still struggling to survive.
I think the peculiarity with that is that with COVID, everybody can get it. You know, it's not like HIV where there are limited access. You know, to getting it, but with COVID, everybody. So it's everybody's business.
Okay, so we actually heard that there are over 24 thereabout of a new variant in Osun State. So if, for instance, government purchases vaccines, would it fit into that variant too?
So so thanks for that question. These are things that are coming up slowly. Apparently, the vaccines from AstraZeneca and some other manufacturers, Oxford, etc., are saying that luckily some of their vaccines have some effectiveness on several variants.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the fact that there are some that have been identified doesn't necessarily mean that, danger.
Okay.
However, we still need to see its effect.
Okay.
You know, basically. So we're identifying these variants. We need to, I think, more importantly, and I just to say this, the fact that a COVID vaccine is here doesn't mean that we're at the end point. On some platforms, I remember anticipating the arrival of the vaccine, but like I always say, the vaccine is supposed to complement for now. It's supposed to complement the preventative protocols. Okay. So nothing is going to stop for now with our face masks. Nothing is going to stop with our hand washing, and then our social distancing, physical distancing, no matter how you want to call it, and our hand hygiene. Nothing is going to change for now. So let's complement that, whatever variant it is. It doesn't go through the preventative protocols. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Yeah, so it can bypass the vaccines and antibody production, etc., and immunity, but it won't bypass the things that we can do, which is quite affordable, which everyone can do. And I think that's what the WHO and other health bodies are trying to emphasize, that whilst we try and fight this, let us protect ourselves and let's protect those we love.
Okay, I would just want you, that's something we would have done first when we came initially, but we can still do it. We're still talking about vaccines. Could you, in a simple term, in a layman's term, tell us what a vaccine is?
All right, thank you, Peggy. So a vaccine is, it's like the disease, giving you a disease without you getting a disease.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and the whole aim of that is so that you produce what we call antibodies. Antibodies are cells that fight an infection.
Okay.
So it's almost like preparing you, just in case you get exposed to the infective, the real thing, right? That your body is already ready to fight the infection. So people you see who get COVID and recover, once the virus gets into their body, the real thing, their body mounts an immune response that fights the infection and doesn't allow them become very sick. Even for those who get sick and recover, it's the same thing. Their body mounts an immune response, that fights off the infection, and then they win. But with a vaccine, I'm giving you something that has the properties of the COVID-19. All right? So I take some aspects and put it in you, but not enough to give you the infection.
Okay.
Just enough, the right amount, the right properties for your body to identify and say, that's an infectious agent, produce the soldiers to fight this, and then remain. And that's another thing that we haven't really measured. How long? How long? Because with every immunity, and that's why for some vaccines like yellow fever, etc., you get a booster dose. All right. So what we're not really sure is for how long the immunity will last. Because even for those who have been infected with COVID, they also have antibodies. Right? They've produced something. That's why they recovered. However, we don't know how long that antibody will last. So that's why I say if you've had COVID before, it doesn't mean, you're home and dry. Still prevent, because we don't know how long your immunity will last.
There are some people who have a very strong immune system. Would they also need this vaccine?
Oh, yes, everybody. In fact, you need a good immune system to get a vaccine. Because if you have a weak immune system, even when a vaccine, which is the infectious agent, sometimes it is weakened or sometimes not a weak version is put in you, but basically you put in just the the traits of it so you can mount an immune response.
Okay.
If you have a weak immune response, you might not be able to mount antibodies. You might not be able to produce them. So you have that in that case you have what, so there are two terms.
Okay.
You hear the term vaccination, and then you hear the other term immunization.
Okay.
So immunization means that I've given you a vaccine and then your body has produced the fighters and so can fight an infection.
Okay, coming back home to Nigeria,
Yes.
if Nigerians government, finally get the vaccine to us, who are the most or top priorities?
So basically, there are different technical working groups meeting right now to discuss this. Again, we might just somehow replicate what is being done in other countries. So basically, they're starting with the most vulnerable. And they're looking at the elderly, so people who are, 65 above. Some countries even go 80 and above. These are the people they're targeting. And then sometimes they would also add people who have comorbidities. If you remember, once this came, there were some people they highlighted are more at risk.
Yes.
If I have diabetes, and it's because
and other sicknesses
and other things, high blood pressure. It's because some of these chronic illnesses reduce your immunity. So you're more likely, if you're older, you have a weaker immune system. If you have some of these chronic illnesses. Cancer, etc., your immune system is also weakened. So this will be people to prioritize. Then people who are in nursing homes, still older people, people who are for example, in prisons, in some countries, that's also prioritized. Why? They're in crowded places, so their risk is actually more. They're in confined spaces, together, congregated, so prisons are another group. And then we can start looking at people like our kids. Because they're now back in school.
We have, I think we've exhausted and touched every corner of COVID vaccination. Thank you very much, Doctor, for coming.
Thank you, Peggy.
I hope you've had a wonderful time. Doctor here is going to be an in-house medical analyst throughout this program to carry us through, because your life matters to us. You can watch this program and more on our website, www.swafricannews.com. Email us at swafricannews@gmail.com. On Facebook, Security Watch Africa, and on Twitter at SecurityWatch97. And make sure you follow all the etiquettes of COVID-19. Stay safe. We will come your way again. Bye-bye.